Hello friends, welcome back to Strategic Management. As I suggested in my last discussion that now I would be taking you towards sustainable development goals and would be trying to project in front of you that this is what is being thought about this world universally and is being decided mutually by all the people, all the responsible people and agencies and authorities in the world, that this is how we would be going. We should be going is now converted into we would be going, and we are actually going towards that, because this was 2015 when this happened. So, we mutually decided that we would be doing this, and we started doing that, and we are pursuing that actually. And businesses are playing a pivotal role as far as this situation goes. This situation affected the decision that we would be going through sustainable development goals now, living with those, accomplishing those, that actually redirected the thoughts of businesses towards these goals. And these goals actually desired for businesses to get aligned with these goals. And businesses also, they thought of thinking the same way, especially the businesses which have been, or organizations, not only business organizations, all the organizations for that matter, and especially business organizations, because we are referring to those organizations primarily. So, they also thought of that yes, we should be doing that, because ultimately we have been thinking in terms of this world to be a better place. This world has always been the best place, and to make it better, that is what we have been thinking, and to rejuvenate whatever we would have lost in due course of time, to acknowledge that we have committed some mistakes and we should get out of those to make this world much better place, a happy place, a place with sustainability in terms of everything, environmental sustainability, business sustainability, social sustainability and so on, so that the coming generations would commend us for leaving this world in a situation wherein they would be happy, healthy and prosperous and opulent. So, we always wanted this world to be prosperous and with opulence, and that is what sustainable development goals look at with respect to strategy, and strategy with respect to sustainable goals should be looked at. The sustainable development goals, also known as the global goals, were adopted by United Nations in 2015 as a universal call to action to end poverty, protect the planet. Remember, we have talked about fortune at the bottom of the pyramid and environmental sustainability perspective through the eyes of Professor Stuart Hart when we were talking about capitalism at the crossroads. So, to end poverty, protect the planet and ensure that by 2030 all people enjoy peace and prosperity, happiness, opulence. The 17 SDGs, Sustainable Development Goals, are integrated, and that is the beauty of these goals. So, these are integrated, they recognize that action in one area will affect outcomes in others, and that development must balance social, economic and environmental sustainability. Social, economic and environmental sustainability. The SDGs are designed to end poverty, hunger, AIDS, acquired immunodeficiency syndrome and discrimination against women and girls, a huge problem. And did I mention that I specifically took a project on understanding domestic violence, because when we were putting up entrepreneurial ventures in northwestern Himalayas, we realized that so many women, they are taking active part in those entrepreneurial projects, but then we realized that there are several kinds of things which obstruct their free participation, and then we tried to understand domestic violence at that level basically, and went for taking measures against those with the help of government agencies, and then brought in several girls and women actively to participate in those entrepreneurial projects, and they became quite successful also. What are sustainable development goals? I will just enumerate these in front of you. These are very popular, everyone knows about that. There are websites full of these goals everywhere, but let us talk about these briefly, one by one, and then quickly I will take you to the elements associated with these goals. So, no poverty. Poverty is a menace, it is deprivation, you see. So, no poverty, no person should be poor in this world. I remember when I was attending a meeting, a conference wherein Professor M.S. Swaminathan was speaking, a great Professor M.S. Swaminathan, he was speaking, and he pointed out, that hunger is basically, a big thing, and we should make sure that no one around us sleeps hungry. And we all know that Professor Swaminathan has contributed hugely as far as green revolution goes, and he has been pivotal in bringing us to this situation of this green revolution. Zero hunger, and precisely this is what I was referring to. Good health and being well, good health and well. Everyone, if someone is healthy, cost of living would be much low as compared to many other things, because and then productivity would be high if you are not voluntarily unemployed basically. So, voluntary unemployment, you can't do much about it except for motivating people to be employed somewhere or to do something. So, my grandfather used to say that health is above 1000 gifts in this world. So, quality education which actually germinates the seeds of knowledge to fructify in due course of time, not just vocational knowledge, not just profession oriented knowledge, this quality education. Gender equality, everyone should feel free, all the genders, all the people in this world, they should feel happy, prosperous, free, and we talked about development as freedom as well. Clean water and sanitation. You see, there are thousands of children especially who get affected by infected water every day. There are deaths reported on these kind of things. There is a statistics available on that kind of a thing basically, and there are so many measures. You see, water scarcity, water is irreplaceable. So, water scarcity is would affect the mankind hugely, and this has started happening in some places around. Affordable and clean energy. We talked about pine briquettes, household level energy generation, affordable and clean energy, decent work and economic growth, decent work, respectable work, which you say that yes, I am associated with this kind of a meaningful, purposeful life basically, and as well as economic growth, economic fruits of whatever we do. Industry, innovation and infrastructure. Industry innovation, when we talk about, that should be associated with environmental sustainability, that should be associated with products which would make this world prosperous, happy, healthy, pollutionless, reduced inequality at all the levels, whichever thing is creating inequality, that should be reduced, that should be eliminated in fact. Sustainable cities and communities. There was a time we used to have civilizations which were self-sustainable. We always talk about, I am not expert on that, there are so many people who are more learned and much learned as compared to these in these kind of areas, so they may comment that well. Responsible consumption and production, responsible consumption and production. So, not based on greed basically, not based on our own requirement. Sometimes we say that we are going for circular systems. Why circular systems are required basically at all if we have responsible consumption? There is no need for circular systems basically, if we do not generate that kind of a waste which has to be recycled, why to create that kind of a waste? First of all, climate action, we have to conserve this. If somehow air is not fresh, many people they face these kind of cities in big cities, kind of they have air purifiers in their rooms with windows closed. So, my daughter is staying in a metropolitan city and she says that room is always closed, still there is an air purifier there, and then she feels comfortable. So, why to stay in those kind of cities is a prime question, but work takes you anywhere or education takes you anywhere, because you have to go there and work somehow. But then climate action, life below water, in rivers, in seas and so on, life on land, in forests, everywhere, in non-forest areas and so on, peace, justice and strong institutions, peace, justice and strong institutions. There is an important book which Professor Amartya Sen wrote on justice, idea of justice. That's an interesting book basically. Partnerships for the goals. So, these are 17 sustainable development goals, and you see they are associated with each other and they are somehow integrated. So, if we start from this side, this may have an effect on the others and so on, and then we may choose to start from any basically. And businesses and business organizations especially are the key proponents of effecting few of these and all of these ultimately, if they decide to do so, if they go for strategically managing value chains and developing value webs and managing strategy for reaching to the vision of prosperity and opulence through business vision, mission, objectives and goals, by creating products and environment which are good for this world, by generating livelihood and so on. ESG. ESG stands for environmental, social and governance, and you see ESG is associated with SDGs, we will see about that. So, these are called pillars in ESG frameworks and represent the three main topic areas that companies are expected to report in. Nowadays, it is becoming mandatory for organizations, and many organizations they have been voluntarily doing that. The goal of ESG is to capture all the non-financial risks and opportunities inherent to a company's day-to-day activities. Environment, social and governance. Why is ESG here to stay? And we are using this source which is given at the foot of the slide. So, our world faces a number of global challenges, and that is being talked about in SDGs also. Climate change, transitioning from a linear economy to a circular one, increasing inequality, and sustainable development goals say that we have to reduce inequality or eliminate inequality for that matter, balancing economic needs with societal needs. You use as much is required by you, and I have been talking about this in some of my subject areas, and this is my favorite line when I say that we should be thinking in terms of साईं उतना दीजिए जामे कुटुम समाए, मैं भी भूखा ना रहूं साधु भूखा ना जाए. I should be having that much which is enough for me, and when someone comes to me for help, support, or I am able to spare something, I should be supporting the society, and this world becomes an opulent place. Investors, regulators as well as consumers and employees are now increasingly demanding that companies should not only be good stewards of capital, but also of natural and social capital, and have the necessary governance framework in place to support this, More and more investors are incorporating ESG elements into their investment decision making process, and that is where strategic orientation gets associated with, because if investor decides to go for investing in organizations which support, which are associated with this framework, then definitely organizations should be abiding by that somehow. So, more and more investors are incorporating ESG elements into their investment decision making process, making ESG increasingly important from the perspective of securing capital, both debt and equity. Ultimately, everyone in this world realizes that the primary thing should be addressed first. So, however we grow in terms of development, in terms of organizational development or linear growth or production and income generation for that matter, if it is not converted into wealth and wealth is not distributed well, and we are not doing that with the perspective of opulence and prosperity, it won't do good to anyone at the end of the day. So, I would not digress into the thoughts of what capitalism is associated with and how it should be now restructured or somewhat. and what kinds of roles the public policy is to play or is playing, and what kind of role the organizations, non-government organizations and several other organizations should be playing and they are playing, and what kind of role businesses are supposed to play. The point here is that everyone in this world now has realized that these are the priorities and everyone should think in terms of addressing those basically. There was a time when I used to say that ultimately it is a matter of choice for people to consume alcohol and cigarettes, but we have realized that these are detrimental to everyone, the consumers definitely and non-consumers as well, and it is for sure. So, we should be objectively against alcohol and cigarettes and tobacco and its usage, because the kind of losses it is generating to this world are humongous and huge. And I am talking about this with the perspective of an inhabitant of this world basically, as a citizen of this world and citizen of this great country India. Achieving sustainable development goals requires collective action by all sectors in society, and that is the most important point. And the role of business has become more crucial than ever in driving the transformative change. How? Incorporating the ESG framework helps companies rethink their values and align business strategies with the sustainable development goals. Rethink their values and align business strategies with the sustainable development goals. Sometimes I wonder, alcohol manufacturers, they go through a very typical kind of a process to manufacture alcohol. Can that process be cut short in terms of producing some product which can bring in health for all? Can it be done? If it can be, then why? Ultimately, the objective is to earn profits, grow, and if it is to be done with the perspective of prosperity, health and opulence for all, why not? Why not? Everyone should be doing that. The SDGs and ESG factors are closely related. In fact, environmental, social and corporate governance is a model of sustainable business development that is based on responsible attitude towards the environment, high social responsibility and good governance. Many of SDGs can be achieved through ESG practices. Now, this is again a very important thought, and that is where the close synergy between organizations, especially business organizations and businesses with SDGs come into play. So, many of SDGs can be achieved through ESG practices such as reducing carbon emissions, improving working conditions and promoting diversity and inclusion. Did I mention about Empress Mills, Swaraj Mills, when it was developed by Jamshedji in Nagpur, wherein he created that environment that people should work with all the facilities, and there were working mothers, creche and those kind of things available in those days when no one could think of that. So, I talked about that earlier, and that is where improving working conditions and promoting diversity and inclusion. In turn, ESG investing can help to accelerate the achievements of the SDGs, and this is the picture which we should be talking about slightly, and slightly in details. So, you see there are 17 SDGs. Now, those can be categorized, and the reference we have put up in the footnote here. So, Berenberg 2018, understanding the SDGs in sustainable investing. So, Joe Berenberg, Gosler and Company, KG, Hamburg, Germany. So, this is the reference of how this has been categorized, wherein these 17 SDGs are categorized under 3 elements which we have been talking about, and this is how business and SDGs and society, everything comes together. So, environment. Now, if you will look at the goal number 6, clean water and sanitation, industry, innovation and infrastructure, So, we have to be innovative in terms of everything which we are trying to do, responsible consumption and production. Enhancing responsible consumption is also the responsibility of business organizations. So, you see, you are producing that much, and you are raising the levels of the demand, but can we do it responsibly? Can we enhance the levels of demand with responsibility? Can we do that? Would it harm us so much that we don't want to do that? And it is not a utopic thought, it makes business sense also, because ultimately the objective is the longevity of the organization, not the immediate huge profits, because sustained very long term profitability is the major question, and that is what we should be focusing upon. Seventh goal, for example, affordable and clean energy. So, can we think in terms of contributing in that process? Yes, organizations are trying to do that, but can we try to take it to the doorsteps of people? Can we start investing in piecemeal basis on these kind of things? Sustainable cities and communities, climate action, life on land and life below water. So, all these 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 goals come under environment category, and that is where companies can contribute in terms of generating measures and direct or indirect way of contribution towards these kind of goals through whatever they are doing. Second element, social. So, here we have 3, 3, 6, 3, 9 to 11 goals associated with social aspects, and that is directly associated with again what companies, although everything is directly associated with what businesses can do. So, social can be addressed. So, no poverty, and you see, when we are talking of no poverty, opulence created around you through whatever you are trying to percolate in terms of generation of livelihood, in terms of distributing the fruits, in terms of wealth, distribution of wealth. So, good health and well-being starting from your employees to everyone around the society. Gender equality, bringing up everyone to the fore, decent work and economic growth, reduced inequalities. And if we are talking of reduced inequalities, inequalities at all the levels should be eliminated, zero hunger, quality education, and I am not re-enumerating SDGs basically, I am trying to make you think in terms of what organizations can do in terms of as far as this kind of situation goes. For example, industry, innovation, infrastructure, we have talked about that. How innovative organizations can be in due course of time to to collate all these 3 points basically. And responsible consumption can be propelled by, I talked about that when I was explaining SDGs and so on. Try and imagine organizations in any of the spheres, in consumer products, in kind of, for example, electronics, in terms of healthcare products, in terms of whichever product category you want to, for example, computers and screens and so on. So, and then one must realize that organizations should have thought of in terms of developing systems which could support all these, instead of growing that so speedily and linearly that it reached to a situation wherein we are bound to think in terms of how to manage that. Governance, and these points I discussed briefly when I was talking about capitalism at the crossroads. Governance, gender equality, decent work and economic growth, industry, innovation and infrastructure, sustainable cities and so on, and all these goals. So, these are 3, 3, 6 to 8 goals associated with as far as governance goes. SDGs and the role of business. So, great business ideas are at the heart of development. They allow economies to grow and they improve people's life. The World Bank Doing Business Report 2015. This we have taken from Nelson, Jenkins and Gilbert R. 2015, Business and the Sustainable Development Goals, retrieved June 15, 2019. And how SDGs are associated with the role of business. So, business investment, operations and value chains create jobs, generate incomes, build human capital, support technology transfer, build physical and institutional infrastructure, and offer products and services that meet customers' needs and aspirations as evidenced by their willingness to pay, including food, water, sanitation, information and communications technology, healthcare, energy, education and more. Each of these contributions in turn has development multiplier effects. For instance, supporting technology transfer may improve the productivity and quality of firms on the receiving end, allowing them to win new customers, grow their businesses and create new jobs. It is for sure that you start from this side, and if it is contributing towards the sustainability of the world, then definitely you are the gainer at the end of the day. You go through any story, any business proposition and you would realize that this is happening with them if they are following this, and many are following this. And one more thing which you can analyze is try to look into the history of organizations which have been doing this in due course of time, and then you will realize that they have increased their longevity, customer loyalty, profitability, all because of this. Improved sanitation may reduce the incidence of disease, saving people money they might otherwise have led to spend on drugs and doctors' fees. It's simple economics. The comparative advantage of business in development is that when the core business investments, operations and value chains that trigger them are profitable, these contributions are and multiplier effects are financially sustainable and potentially scalable. Precisely, this is the point which we are trying to make, and I have reiterated these things many a times during this session. And let us see, mechanisms for enhancing business contribution to development across its spheres of influence. So, workplace, marketplace, supply chain, community, local, national and international enabling framework, and that is how Nelson, Jenkins and Gilbert, they have proposed this structure. Mechanisms for enhancing business contribution to development. How? Companies in all industry sectors can respond to these drivers mentioned in the figure, the figure just I showed you, thereby achieving both business benefits and development impact in three different ways: core business, social investment, public advocacy and policy dialogue. How in core business? First and foremost, business investment, operations and value chains, they are most important powerful levers at a company's disposal to drive sustainable development, because when they are responsible and profitable, they are financially self-sustaining with the potential to generate impact on ongoing basis at a larger scale. Companies' investments, operations and value chains affect sustainable development goals whether they are intended to or not, and this is the key line, whether they are intended to or not, but anyways the contribution would go that side. The first step is to understand a company's impacts, both positive and negative. Then steps can be taken first and foremost to minimize the negative and then to maximize the positive. Moving from this side to that side. This means that adherence to environmental, social and human rights standards and principles of good corporate citizenship is a fundamental minimum. Good corporate citizenship is a fundamental minimum. Beyond this commitment to responsible business practices, there is untapped potential for companies to create shared value, build more inclusive and sustainable value chains through innovation in technologies, products, services and business models. We have been continuously referring to this. Social investment includes contributions of money, employee time and products or services in kind that are not expected to generate commercial opportunities or financial returns, at least not directly or in short term. Many people consider core business and social investment distinct and even mutually exclusive alternatives, but in practice, and note this please, but in practice we often see these two levers used in combination. For example, social investment can be used to fund new business activities that are experimental or that have lower returns or longer payback periods than traditional commercial investment criteria typically require. Look at the big picture, not the numbers. Do you remember this line? Social investment can also be used to fund activities that strengthen the operating environment for a company's core business. For example, funding education or healthcare or farming families may make agriculture supply more stable. Public advocacy, public dialogue. Huge literature is there how public advocacy and public dialogue works. I have been naming intelligent people, genius people, devoted people working on these kind of things. I talked about Dr. Anil Prakash Joshi ji, Padma Bhushan Dr. Anil Prakash Joshi ji, who belongs to Uttarakhand and has been on the board of governors of IIT Roorkee, Indian Institute of Technology Roorkee as well. He devoted whole of his life for this cause, generating awareness amongst people and devoting a lot of time personally also in rejuvenating even a river. And that is how we can think of, and he has attracted the attention of different kinds of businesses towards these kind of causes and to associate themselves with such causes to generate prosperity and opulence for all. And this is the ultimate objective which strategic management is supposed to achieve. I would be coming back to you with a thought around stop predicting. Till then, goodbye.